So with that being said, Quinn, it's all you.
Great. Yeah, and with that one-on-one, that's when we're also going to, because everyone's going to be doing things a tiny bit different just because of how their book works. So that's where we'll identify those tiny different places that things are slowly tweaked. So that's kind of one of the important pieces of that one-on-one. So for today, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna pretend I'm gonna be the designer, and Jeniv is gonna pretend he's gonna be the editor. So we're gonna kind of do a higher workflow of how it's gonna work, the communication from the editor to the designer during the design production process from the start to when the internals are placed out for everybody. So with that being said, I just kind of want to show you a quick file structure of how we've have set up the files just a tiny bit different than they were in the past. I'm going to share my screen and let me know if you guys can see it. Everyone able to see my screen?
See it.
Okay.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So what I'm going to do here is I've set up a, this is going to be a training folder. And as when we do our one-on-one trainings, we're going to have a training folder that we can work with you on as well. But right now, we just set up an HR training folder. So this folder is going to mock what you will see going forward. So as you see, there's the ads folder, there's a digital edition, there's a gallery, and images, a layouts, a PDF final, and production files. So it pretty much mocks what you're doing now, but there's just gonna be a few little changes in here. So when you, first I wanna show you the gallery photo folder here. So in here, you're gonna see, when you start your month, you're gonna see a folder with the most common parts of your book. And this is another piece where we're gonna have to work with each individual editor one-on-one with, is to find out what are the most common pieces of your book. You know, does your book usually have 3 features, 1 feature, so we can set this up so that's very smooth, so the editor can start working right away without having to ask the designer for something. And we can set these up, 7-8 months in advance, so it won't matter. So I just kind of want to show you this, that we're kind of viewing everything as a package. So you can see this HR column is inside that folder. You're going to have the InDesign document, and there's also a folder called Inputs. Now that Inputs folder, that's where you would place stuff that falls outside the realm of the normal copy for the book. So in there you would place, maybe someone sent you a PowerPoint presentation and you needed charts removed and recreated. Maybe you have an Excel document full of charts that need to be made. That's where you'd put that stuff that doesn't fall in the ordinary, that we would recreate things. And you could also just store anything else you wanted in there. If you had a Word document with your whole story in there, you just wanted to place in there for reference, you could put it in there as well. But that's kind of the input. Some people use the inputs, some people will never use it. So it's all up to the individual person. So you'll see that this folder here, the gallery folder, and if you also go back a level here and you look at the images folder, it mocks that. It's going to mock that. So what this is going to be used for is if you have a feature and you have art that you want to go with that feature, you would say if it's feature 1, in this feature 1 folder, you would just drop your images in there. And we'll go over that in the workflow, but I just kind of want to show you high level how these folders work. So now, as we send this off as a package, everything is going to be nicely packaged together. We know we have the images that go with the feature as well as everything else. So that's kind of what this images folder is for. And obviously there's going to be times where, and we'll talk about this more on the one-on-one piece, but you have a standing art, it's already inside as an asset. You could just tell the designer, this is the image, and the designer will go fetch that. This is more for if you have supplied art that's coming through that's not currently in the system, you would just put it here. So that's I just kind of want to give you the the main difference between the folder structure. So at this point, what I'm going to do is we're going to start the workflow, how it works from the editor has just started, is going to start setting up their files in that from the galley. So I'm going to hand this over to our pretend editor, and Jeniv will take over from that part to show you that piece. And then when it's time for me to come back as a designer, I'll switch back to me. So for right now, I'm going to hand it over to Jeniv. And he'll launch his screen sharing here in a second. Something happened on his end there. So yep, just hit right there. Give us 1 second here. Let us know once you can see a screen.
Nothing yet.
For some reason, it's not wanting to share on his computer for a second here. We'll give us 1 second to troubleshoot.
Quinn, maybe I think you might have to stop sharing yours.
I think is mine still being shared? Because I think it says it's not shared. Let's see. Share your screen, stop sharing. It says I've already stopped. There we go. All right. No, it's so it looks like it's asking him to install a plugin.
He shouldn't have to install a plugin.
Okay.
Remember when we did yours? He just has to be on Google Chrome.
It's working now.
Okay. Okay, we're seeing somebody's screen.
So, are you able to see my screen now?
Yes, we are seeing a screen.
Great. So let's say I'm the editor and I'm going to work on the feature one article. So as an editor, what I would do is I would just move this file into the editor folder. And once the folder reaches there, I will just go there and start my normal process. I will just open the file on InDesign. And this is how my template is going to look. So if you see here, I have a separate box for the title, separate box for deck, separate box for byline, and everything which goes into the article as a separate box. And these boxes basically are your style boxes. So let's say I have a content here, and let's imagine that I'm going to copy this headline and bring it to my InDesign file. So when I paste it here, it applies the style which the headline should take. So that's the importance of having these boxes shapes created already. And after that, it's all just copy paste work based on the requirements. So the deck will go into the deck.
And one thing I just kind of want to put on here is you're gonna see that there are overset boxes because if the template is set up for a one line headline and it happens to be a double, you're gonna get that overset. There's two things you could do there. Is you could just extend that box or just have the designer fix that when it gets to the designer. That's totally up to the end user, and that's what we'll talk about more on the one-on-one type stuff.
Yeah, and after that, it's just copy paste work. It's all about copying whatever elements which you want to place it on your layout and just pasting it. And wherever you paste it, it applies the necessary style that it has to take over. I'm just copying the side deck now. I'm going to the side deck box and I'm pasting it, and as you see, it applies the style as how it has to appear on a side text box. Now I'm just copying the bio text and I'm going back to the InDesign file, and in the bio text place I'm pasting the bio text.
And here again, you'll see that there's the little red square saying that the text is overset. So there's a few different things you could do. You could just take your selection tool and click on that red box and move to your side, and it'll show the overset text. And the designer knows to fix this stuff already, so it's not that big of a deal. The designer will just fix that as the time goes on. But if you wanted to, you could see what the rest of the text is by just clicking it on the side there.
And after this, let's say I just want to copy the body text and place it at the body. So I'll copy the body text and I'll go to my body text place and I'm going to paste it. So it's just copy paste work, just like how you normally do. It's all about having different boxes for each element with some predefined styles applied to that boxes.
And another point I want to make is, and there's going to be times where we don't have that box because it's a special thing. In that case, you just put the copy inside the body and the designer will take care of all that stuff. Yeah. So if you're placing it and there's not a box because it's something special, we will just place it in the text and make a note of it, and we'll create that spot for it in the design side. And yeah, and then, like, for example, if you wanted to show you to put references in and how to style it from the style palette. Yeah.
So let's say I have some references that have to go into the article, the layout. So I just copy the text, I come back into the body text box, I'll paste it, and on the Windows menu,
yep.
On the Windows menu, if you go down, you have an option called styles. And under that, you have an option called paragraph styles. And this is the place where the designers would generally load all the predefined styles. And for example, if you want to apply the reference styles for this text, you just have to click reference.
Yeah.
And as you see, the style would change.
And this is the, and forgive me, I don't know in the past if you've done this way. That's why kind of we're showing the high level part of it. But in InCopy, if we ever move to that InCopy workflow, the styles is the same. It runs the same way as in InCopy as it does in InDesign.
And it's not necessary that you should be doing it. Probably even if you put the text inside, the designer will also apply the styles.
Yeah, exactly. So if you just dump the text in, the designer will style it correctly. The designer just needs to know where, if it's going to be a subhead or not. That's the only difference between it. So,
all right. So this is how we basically bring out each and every text into each and every process in the layout, and that's why we call this as a template, which has a lot of boxes with predefined styles in it. So let's say I'm done, working on this article. I will now save the article. I will close the file. I will now go back to my Ignite desktop sync. Now, what I would do is I will right-click on the file, the InDesign file, and you will have an option called View in Cloud.
So that we want to really stress this point right here. You need to use the View in Cloud. The comments one will not tag, so we have to use the View in Cloud.
Yeah. So the moment you click that option, this file is going to open on the browser, and as you see at the right side, you have a place where you can post your comments. You need to use the @ symbol, and let's say now Quinn is designer. I'm just going to click Q, and I'm going to get the email address of Quinn. So followed by the email address, I'm just going to give some random comments to Quinn saying that this file is ready for you to lay it out. And I'm going to post a comment. As you see here, the comment is recorded, and now an email will be triggered to Quinn, where Quinn will be able to view these comments, and it's also a notification to see, hey, the file is ready and it's been sent by the editor to you, so that he would start working on the file. So
yeah, and then also he'll show you the image as well.
Yeah. Now let's say, as an editor, I have an image which I have to, give it to the designer. So what I would do is, let's say this is an image which I have it on my desktop and I have to take it into the image folders of this feature article. So on the Ignite, in the images folder, I have a package for feature one. So I will go into that folder and I will take my image, I will drag and drop that image there. Now, it's not necessary that you have to give it regular comments to all of the images that you're placing in this folder. If you're going to place an image in the folder, the designer will be aware of it and it is his responsibility to go into this folder and locate the image and place it in the article. But let's say if you have any additional comments that you have to give to the image, like you have to crop this image, or you have to change the background, or you have to change the color, or something like that, then you have to right click on this image, just like how we did before, and you have to give view in cloud and give your comments on it.
And right now you'll notice it's not showing up in view in cloud because it's probably still syncing.
Yeah.
So now it says view in cloud. So that would be the same process where he would use the @ sign to the designer, use this photo in whatever section to note it. And like I said, I know that a lot of these, like for instance, this image right here is already in the assets, and it's a standard art piece. So you wouldn't have to do that for this piece, but we just for demonstration we want to show you. But in the normal workflow, if it was HR Magazine, the editor in the InDesign document and those notes could have said, please pick up James' photo for the bio box. And then the designer would go get that photo.
Yeah. So once this is done, I will go back to the editor folder where the package is ready for the designers to do it. So I would now drag and drop this folder into the design folder so that it gets away from your editor folder and moves to the design folder.
So then at this point, I'm going to take back over the screen here as a designer. So at this point, you're going to see that I have an email here that came here from Jeniv. It's got a comment, file is ready for you. So I know there's a file ready for me. So I'm going to go back into my folder, and I'm going to open up that file. I'm going to go into my layouts, into design, and you're going to see there's my feature one that's ready for me to start to lay out. I'm going to open it up. And now, at this point, I would make any changes to the file, depending on where we are in that process. If we already have pages, if there's other stuff, I would design this page, fix any styles, make sure everything is correct. If we have page numbers, I'd have the page numbers all set up, ready to go. And my goal as a designer would have this to be 99.9% ready for the editor to be approved if we're at that stage. So so this part is pretty simple. I would just make my changes. I'm not going to do much changes to this because I don't want to sit here and just have you guys watch me design a page. So I'm just going to pretend that I did designing, I'll just pretend that I placed that image inside the layout here. And then at this point, I would save my changes. And then I would go back into my folder here, and I would right click as soon as it finishes syncing here. And then I would view in the cloud just like before. And I would type my message, whatever it is going to be, back to the editor. It could be ready if it's whatever, depending on what point in time it is. If it's ready for proofing, if it's if there's additional questions or anything, I would send this back to Jeniv, and I would just post my comment. I'll just say ready, and then post it. And then I would move that folder back to the editor folder by simply just dragging it in. It's moved, and now it's back to the editor folder. So editor receives the email. When they're ready, they open that file up and the next process. So that process is going to go back and forth until it's approved. And from that point right there, once it's approved, I'll let Jenna be the editor here again. I don't know if you have to share your screen, but you need to share your screen for it? Or, okay.
All right. So as you see here, I have an email from the designer saying that, the file is ready for my review. So I would be going into the same folder where the designer has moved the file for my review. I will open the InDesign file again. I will check for the correctness of the file, and let's say that this file is, good to go. It's approved. So what I would do is I would close the file.
Jeniv, can you hold on 1 second? I don't have your screen coming up. It might just be me though. Does everyone else see his screen?
No, I'm having buffering problems too, Sri.
Okay, did I maybe hang on just a few seconds? Usually it would come up faster, but this time it's not coming up.
Okay, I've got your screen, so why don't we just let each other know when it pops up?
Okay.
Other editors on the call, do you have his screen?
Yep, I'm seeing it.
I see it too.
Mine finally came up.
Okay, so Frank's there, so now is it just Sari?
Yeah, just keep. Whoops, I accidentally logged myself out. I was trying to reload. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, go ahead and keep going then if it's just me. I'm trying to get back in and see maybe if it'll come up this time, but go ahead.
All right, great. So let's say that I have opened the InDesign file and I've looked into the file. Now the file is good to go and it is approved. So I would come back to my Ignite desktop sync. I would just choose the folder which is in the editor folder, and I would just move into the approved folder. Now it looks like there is already some other article on the same file name now, so that issue will not be there in the future. So I would just move it into the proof folder. So now this article is proofed and it is approved from the editor side. So I would now go into, that article folder, the layout folder. I would just right click on it and I would just give view in cloud. And as you see, the file will open on the browser, and I would just add my comment saying that this file is approved. This is just, to have the conversation ended, and also it's like a notification for the entire group to let them know, or even to check in the future to, identify whether the article is approved or not. So I would just say this layout is approved.
And again, this, as we know how publication training goes, this may be unapproved, 2 hours later, so that, they'll go back in there and then it'll be reapproved. You'll see there could be different versions of it. So just because it says approved doesn't mean it's final. We can go back and change things, and get reapproved.
Yeah. So at this level, I think we are actually good to go.
So yeah, at this point, this is where the designer would, wait for all these files to come. They would get make one mass PDF, and that's when they would share a link for the internals for approving to everybody. So I know this is kind of like a fast high level, but we kind of wanted to give you the general way it's going to work, and then when we have our one-on-one meetings, that's where we're going to have, we can answer some fine-tuned questions that are magazine specific to your book as well. And we're also going to have like a quick start guide for everybody too, that everyone can kind of look at first and to see where they're at in that process. Any questions about any of this right now?
Am I correct that we would put the captions when we put the image in that folder you showed us, and then go to View in Cloud and leave a comment, and we could say like caption and give you the caption?
Yeah.
Is that where that goes?
Yeah. Again, that could be something that, depending on how each magazine works with captions, because there are going to be some places where you can actually have caption boxes already on the on your template. But yeah, again, you could put those captions right on either the image that you uploaded, or you could put that caption inside the communication of that InDesign document and saying, you could put at the end, these are captions for this part, this part, this part. So yeah, exactly. That's, again, I think people are going to find, as you work through your designer, you're going to find the most proficient way in that with those kind of small pieces as you move on.
Any more questions?
None from me.
I guess at this high level, are there any concerns that you may see so that we could address them prior to the one-on-ones? If anything that you could see that say, oh, that will not work because this is different?
No,
Quinn, this is Steve.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Steve.
Hi. Everything seems fine, but where are these folders in Ignite? Are they where our folders have been, or
Absolutely correct.
Where do we find them?
Absolutely correct. They're going to be in the same spot where they were before.
Okay, that's easy.
This is Frank. One question about our archived materials, and I guess this points back to the question Steve just asked. Will all of the archived materials that are currently on Ignite continue to be there in the same places and under the same names?
Absolutely. Nothing will be changing from there. The only difference is that when you have an article and you want the designer to find that image, they just need to know where that image is so they can pull it. That's the only difference.
Gotcha.
So everything is going to be in the same spot. We may take that image and place it in our image folder just so we have a package. And one reason for doing that is as technology changes and we move forward, if for some reason we had to move the whole package out of a system, it's going to be all together. Let's say, in the example, later on, you wanted to go to digital, print to digital, it'll all be one package to go out together.
Okay. I asked that because I think most of us editors come upon instances where people will want to pick up materials, from the previous issue or from the last year's issue, and it's important to have access to the archives for that.
Exactly, and nothing will change on that end whatsoever.
I was curious, do we have a plan yet for the digital editions?
Yes, we do. We're still working on a workflow with that with Tanya. So that's something that we'll finalize probably by the end of next week with the digital edition workflow.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, we talked about that this morning, Sari, because typically that's something that Ashley and Lisa have taken care of. And in the interim, that is something that I will take on until we transfer that knowledge. Quinn or Jeniv, do you have anything else?
No, we don't. I guess we want to put this out there as, like I said, it's going to be high level, and I think we can really dig deeper with the editors when we do the one-on-one training. Because as we know, everyone does things in their book. They have different little elements that are different. So what we want to do is we want to make sure we can cover that to make it so proficient to that special book, those special pieces out of each book as well.
Fantastic. Well, Quinn, thank you. And Jeniv, thank you so much for the demonstration. I think it was incredibly helpful. And after this call, I will send out information giving you what you need to do to set up your calls with Quinn next week.